Alright, this is Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. This game contains representations of psychosis. People with experience of psychosis as well as professionals in psychiatry have assisted in these depictions. Some may find these depictions disturbing, including those who themselves may have had similar experiences. Hellblade is best experienced with headphones for full 3D binaural sound. I'm not ready. Now I'm ready. I think.
Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You are safe with me. I'll be right here, nice and close so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Senua. Now, her story has already come to an end, but now it begins anew.
What's happening? It's breathing. Dead. It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching. They're watching. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness.
They're watching.
There will be no more stories after this one.
What is she doing? Why is she doing this? They're watching. Why doesn't she turn coming? She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue him. He's already dead. I can feel you coming. Quiet.
Okay, so Hellblade is not like your average horror game. Instead of trying to jump scare you to death, this game is more interested in building tension and keeping it there until you can't bloody take it anymore. The main character, Senua, is a Celtic warrior. She just happens to suffer from extreme psychosis. And to do this, the developers actually went out of their way to talk to specialists and people who actually suffer from this kind of condition. Just so they could get it right. So that they could get the portrayal right on screen. And it is very effective. Visually, the game looks amazing. I mean, I know this opening sequence is all foggy and whatnot, but you can see Senua herself clearly, and it's done using motion capture, and it is fantastic.
Look around and you'll see them. The drowned, the sick, the slain. Here they lie, rotting in the fields and rivers of hell.
This game left that much of an impression on me. I'm doing this review without a script.
But the dead don't always lie still here. This is not a place of rest.
You can't do this. Go back. Go back. They're going to do that to you. Can you see them? Can you see them? They're going to do that to you.
I can see why people who suffer from these kind of conditions would be totally freaked out by them. Because it's freaking me out, and all I'm doing is watching a TV with a pair of headphones on.
There's nothing to go back to, and worse to look forward to. Why don't you join us? Maybe you too have a part to play in this story.
As for the audio, it really does surround you. You get 360-degree sound effects in this game. And all the voices, they sound like they're talking to you from different directions, but also circling you. And then sound effects in the environment, little creaks, and you know, all the typical horror trope type stuff, all the sound effects, the noises, the creaking trees, the wind rustling. But it sounds like it's all around you. Add to that the voices. Yeah, this game is dripping with atmosphere. And not the pleasant kind. It's awesome.
Darkness is coming. Yearns for life. Hungers for it. Like a pack of wolves on a hunt. But she's not stopping.
The game also has these rune puzzles. You walk up to the door, focus on it, and, well, you hold the runes in your mind, effectively. And the idea is to run around the environment and find where the rune is in the environment. The game gives you cues as to where they are. All these red symbols flash up in the area when you're in roughly the right place, but it's still down to you to find it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Witnesses perspective puzzles.
And the gate will open.
The gate is open. Go through the gate.
Go through it.
It's dangerous.
Follow it.
What's behind the gate?
Where will it take you?
It worked.
The game also has these illusion-based puzzles, where bits of the environment change depending on which of the illusion gates you pass through or look through. It's bloody brilliant. It's so simple and yet so effective. And again, it all serves to reinforce how much of this is illusion, how much of this is in her mind, and how much of it is real. You don't know.
Challenge me.
Where is he? It's not your fault.
The enemies are pretty standard stuff. You've got basic swordsmen, you've got a sort of a berserker type which is a bit more resistant in close combat. You've got a shield bearing guy, and there's another guy wearing a sort of a bird outfit that's a bit more agile than usual. Apart from that, you've got really massive bruisers with massive single two-handed weapons, and you've got a handful of bosses. The combat is not difficult. Not if you pay attention. It's when you stop paying attention. That's when the trouble starts.
Finish this. End it now. They've surrounded you. Find you.
After a while, you've experienced the same kind of tension in the game, and it starts to lose its effectiveness a bit. Especially if you wander off the beaten track to find all the runestones like I insist on doing, because I'm a completionist. But then the game finds a new way of piling the pressure back on later on. It doesn't rely on one trick for too long. It keeps changing its approach, and that all helps to keep you on edge.
You can hear Dillian. It's Dillian. Go to him. Dillian. Go to him. it is. Huh? It's close. It's close. Move away. Senua, move away. I feel it. You'll die. I feel it. You're dying. The burning has begun. Dying. The burning. The burning has begun.
Go to the gate. There they are.
The road. Let it sink.
It is.
Go towards it. Run.
Focus.
Focus. Two more.
Two more. Where are they, Senua?
Where are you? Run! Run! Run now! Run! It's not safe here! You came through the wrong door. Where's your sword? And your sword is that creature. You can't
We can't discuss Senua's story or character too much without spoiling it, and I hate spoilers, so I'm not going to. But I'm having a hard time coming up with the right word to describe the atmosphere. It's not so much dripping as it is gushing. This is something else. This is a unique experience, and one that I think everyone should have.
The hardest battles are fought in the mind. That is what Dillian taught her. With every defeat, the dark rot will grow and soon it will take her soul. But for now, at least, she still has control of her mind. And she will fulfill her vow, whatever the cost.
Okay, so I'm going to close the review off by saying that Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice gets an 8 out of 10 from me. 9 if you're wearing headphones. You're wearing headphones, yeah, holy shit. It has that much of an impact. The game very nicely balances the whole psychological thing with the fairly basic combat and relatively simplistic perspective puzzles, but it blends them all together brilliantly. And I think this game is definitely one that everyone should play at some point. I can understand if you don't want to play it right now though, because this game is currently 35 quid at release, and it's only available as a digital download. As far as I'm aware, there are no physical copies of this game, and the game is it took me about 8.5 hours to play through. So you're paying 35 quid for 8.5 hours, but it's so totally worth it. Don't let the price point, unless you're really strapped for cash, don't let the price point put you off. Go out and get this. Or should I say, go out and get like a PlayStation Network card or whatever your console uses. Put that on and then download it.
It only takes an instant. Fear swallows you before you have a chance to make sense of it. And darkness becomes a part of who you are.
You killed him.
But her world changed the day the Northmen took him from her. Senua knows that there's no going back to how things were. That there's nothing to go back to at all.
Stay still.